You will be queen.
Technology now places man and machine in direct competition. For jobs, in gaming, on the battlefield, even for supreme intelligence.
Just for one day.
Technology we have created has blurred the line between people and cyborg. FUTUROUS aims to harness and develop both. FUTUROUS is a new reality where we operate in partnership with machines to achieve better results for everyone. We are creating the Olympics of innovation. Now it is time for a new type of games, allowing robotics, information technology, and artificial intelligence to enter the arena. Technology meets competitive spirit. E-sports, e-games. Innovation meets ingenuity. The future will be collaborative, inclusive teams, man and woman, athlete and para-athlete, mankind and robot. Spectators interact with competitors, drones racing, drone boarding, new sports, hackathons, workshops,
education.
Technology needs to support humanity. FUTUROUS, bridging humanity with technology.
Yes, right now I would like to introduce to you the CEO of FUTUROUS, Philip Blаншар, and he will speak at the session Sport, Mirror of Our Communities and Laboratory for the Future. Philip, please take it away. Philip, do you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Oh, yes. So, yes, right now we will hear the presentation of Philip Blанshard. He's the CEO of FUTUROUS, and you could have seen right now the video that was up. And he will speak on sport, mirror of our communities, and laboratory for the future. Please take it away.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and I hope you like the film. It was quite important for me to express my gratitude to Skolkovo University and Skolkovo entities for being with you today, because I do think that what we are experiencing now in the world globally is because there is a lack of understanding, and I do believe that sport can help us have a better understanding and go all together towards a better world. So what is sports? What is sport? First of all, I would like to stress that sport is a social and cultural construction. If you look at the definitions of sports, and I took here some languages, I did not put the Russian language because my command of Russian is not good enough, but if you look at different definitions, you see there are some differences, but there are many commonalities. The first one is sport relates to a physical activity. When we are doing sports, we are abiding by the laws of nature. We are fighting against time, we are fighting against gravity, we are fighting against the water resistance. So this is something which is extremely important. Sport is anchored in the laws of nature. To do sports, you need to have strength and or dexterity. To do sports, you need to do it in a normative framework. You have rules of competition, you have rules of sports. The size of a tennis court is defined. The size of the football court is defined. And these definitions are done by governing bodies, which are called international federations. And finally, you can practice sport with or without competition. These are the main commonalities. If we look at pictures and we show these pictures all over the world, we realize that sometimes there is a strong acceptance. If you show this picture to people from different communities, everyone will say, yes, it's a sport. 100% will say it's a sport. If you look this picture to other communities, you start to realize that for some people it is sport, and for others it might not be sport. Usually it's about 90% here. If you look at running, is it a sport? Then you have less people who think it's a sport because it's more related to freedom to do things as you wish. It's not necessarily a sport because you do not have, and in this specific case, a normative framework. The same with free diving. Free diving, and its name tells a lot, free diving is not considered as a sport, even though there is a physical exercise, even though it requires physical preparation. And obviously, you are facing the laws of nature. But now, have a look at that. Is it a sport? When you see that picture, you have more than 70% of the persons who say, yes, it's a sport. But the same physical activity, if you show this picture, you have less than 50% of the person who say it's a sport. So what I want to stress here is really to understand how much we are influenced by mental constructions. And if we go further, for some people in the world, this is considered as a sport, wushu. But for others, it is not sport, it's a martial art. So we start to identify that this notion of lingua franca, the fact that everyone is talking the same language when it comes to sport, it is more subtle than what we might think. And now, if we go a bit further and we address the combination of sport and technology, here with esports, we have people who consider this is not a sport, even though to be a competitive esport gamer, you need to have a very good physical condition. I wanted to make a joke about that picture, because obviously for everyone we might say this is not a sport. However, Alisher Usmanov, the president of the International Fencing Federation, when he organized the Fencing World Championships for senior people in Moscow in 2015, he introduced cyber lightning in the competition. So in conclusion for this first part, we need to understand that it's a regulatory framework. We are working with governing bodies, and these governing bodies define the notion of sports and the exercising of the sport. And we need to understand as well that this will evolve over time, and some parts of our humanity, some part of the globe might have a different acceptance. And why is it interesting, especially now in the world we are living in? It's because sport is related to values. As a cultural construction and as a mental construction, sport is carrying moral values. These values are subjective. These values are linked to the financial values, commercial activity. Why do we have so much sponsoring in sport? Why do we have so much money coming from the social media or the media rights? It's because the moral values of sport are directly linked to the financial values. And we have seen, and unfortunately, with the crisis in Ukraine, we have seen that for some actors in the world of sport, they have started to renegade the fundamental values of sports and the recognition of the athletes because of political pressures. So what does it mean for us? First of all, we need to understand that because of these constraints, the world of sport is slightly evolving, or was slightly evolving, and now the pace of change is accelerating. If we look at the median age of the viewership for major sport competitions, we realize that over the years, the viewership is getting older and older. In other terms, sport has not been able to engage with the evolution of the society and the rise of younger generation. Again, with the COVID crisis and the sanitary issues that we have faced, we have seen a strong evolution of the world of sports, and we have been from something which is binding people together to more of a technical exercise. For me, Tokyo 20 and Beijing 2022, by the limitations they have to public viewing and spectatorship in the stadium, showed a clear shift in the mentality of sport. We are not seeing anymore sport as a convening power. We are just seeing the technical side of it. And for me, it's a mistake. So what can we take from that? First of all, we need to understand that the sport ecosystem is based on, as I said earlier, governing bodies and a network of structures which are working with one another. These structures have been extremely conservative. They are still opposing sport for athletes and sport for para-athletes. You have still a lot of competitions between males together and females together. And you have seen in the film that for me, if we want to prepare the future, if we want to have the future, if we want to envision the future in a collaborative way, then it is critical to invent new types of sports. And one of the elements I wanted to stress with you, especially because the Russian Federation is both a sport country, but also a technology country, is to see how technology can come and become more and more present in the sport activities. And with my teams, we have identified different types of categories. You have the first category, which is obviously how technology is servicing the athletes. We have how technology is supporting the gameplay. How can we ensure that the Russian ice hockey national team is improving, not only with its individual, but collectively. So this is what we call by technology enhancing the gameplay. And then we have the technology increasing the spectator's experience. And these three elements, the athletes, the team, and the relationship with the fan and the spectators are extremely important because we have huge potentials of growth and re-engagement for the world of sports. I will skip this one. And what I wanted to tell you today, given the fact that Startup Village is about technology and the liaison between technology and sociology, how people interact with technology, is that through sport, we are able to understand the biggest question of our time now, which is the opposition between humanism on one hand and transhumanism on the other hand. By transhumanism, I mean technology taking over more and more of our humanity. And here, we have listed some elements which are related to the technology, wearables, image recognition, artificial intelligence, implants. We have identified some elements which are related to the culture and the society, the clash of civilization, as I said, i.e. opposition between transhumanism and humanism. We have all these extremely important questions regarding transgender. Do we allow to have someone who was a male before who became a female? Do we allow that person to compete in female competitions? And here we can clearly see that the sport, as I said earlier in my introduction, is the mirror of our society. We have the possibility to focus on the biggest questions we have to decide as individuals, our corporate people, or governmental leaders. So these elements are extremely important because they are dictating how we will evolve, how our societies will evolve, and how the future will be for all of us. So before I give the floor to the audience, I wanted to stress the necessity of us understanding that it is not, we have full power with our communities, with our countries, with our leaders. We have the full power to decide and to act for the future we want to have. And this is something which is extremely important, especially in the current situation. We should not be passive, we should be active. And this is the reason why I was willing to engage with you today, because in Russia, you have a wonderful sport culture, you have a wonderful technology structure. And I think that when it comes to this reconciliation of sport and technology, when it comes to reinventing new types of sports, the time is now, and this is what I wanted to share with you. And now I give back the floor to the animator.
Philip, yes. Oh, thank you very much. That was very interesting. And we do have a question from the audience, but I'll work as a translator. So, well, you, of course, have a lot of experience in events and especially in sports. So what do you think about the fate of mega events in Russia, considering all that is going on right now?
It's a critical question. It's a sensitive one, but I will speak my heart. I think the world of sport has completely renegated its responsibility. Sports used to be, as I said earlier, a universal language. Sport was the opportunity to have different countries showing their best athletes, showing their spirit. And now, with the bans for Russian athletes and Belarusian athletes, the sport has shown that, or some sport entities have shown that they are engaged only on the political level. For me, sport is a political element by nature because it engages with different communities. Also, a geopolitical element because it engages with different countries. And what we have seen now is the instrumentalization of some sport entities by the Western Bloc, as they call it. I don't like the expression. And by doing so, they are not respectful of the values we were talking about earlier. And by doing so, they are also fostering for the creation of another sport ecosystem in which you will have Russia, in which you will have China, India, the Middle East. I'm currently based in the Middle East. Because these countries, these cultures do not accept that sport has been used as a tool, as a political tool. So yes, sport is about geopolitics, but there are some rules you should not infringe. And the current situation, I think, is a very good opportunity for Russia and its leadership to engage with other countries, Saudi Arabia, India, United Arab Emirates, China, obviously, and to propose an alternative which is more fair and more open.
So in any situation, you do propose that the outcome will be a good one, especially for the people in sports that are now a little bit, well, let's call it not suffering, but, you know, all the hardships that have fallen on them, you know.
Listen, we are back to we are back to the laws of nature and on the one hand and the laws of man. So when you are a sports person, you practice a lot, you fail, and it is also through these failures, through these injuries, that you are growing stronger physically and mentally. So I am rather optimistic as a person, but the current situation for me now clearly shows that the world of sport has not understood this geopolitical opportunity, has not understood it had to engage and change, and that's the reason why you will see, for me, creation of a new ecosystem, which is a huge opportunity, and I weigh my words, which is a huge opportunity for countries like Russia, China, Saudi, UAE, Philippines, even Africa. So yes, I see this as a nice opportunity. The situation is sad, but because some sport entities have not been able to understand their responsibilities and to live by their responsibilities and values, then you will have a counter reaction, which will be positive for humanity in a short future, I'm sure.
Yes, I agree. Well, it is a discussion not for a couple of minutes, but we are right on time, and I would like to thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
And well, hopefully we'll get to see you offline on this stage, hopefully soon. So thank you very much. Have a great day, and see you soon.
Have a nice
thank
day.
you.
Do svidaniya.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ты сделан из старых забытых вещей, из ночи и дня без обмана, из порванных струн и разбитых идей, из холода и тумана. Ты соткан из дыма и верных друзей, и разных незыблемых истин, из горя и радости, света, теней. А может, из чьей-нибудь мысли. Ты сделан из старых ненужных вещей, оставленных кем-то на входе. Ты сделан из очень хороших людей.